Hey guys, this is Mark Goldberg from Mark Vlogs Watches. I want to thank you for joining me today. We have Mailbag. We've got some viewer mail that we're going to answer and talk about. But before we get to that point, let's go ahead and talk about the fist watch check of the day. And here it is. Today, I'm wearing the latest version of the Toilet Oak. Yes, Goldberg. I popularized the term Toilet Oak because if you look at it and you look away real quick, it looks like a Royal Oak. But in fact, it is a G-Shock, one of my favorite watches. Okay, guys, I've got a letter. Let's talk about it. Now, before we move forward, let me tell you something. 74% of you people do not subscribe to this channel, but watch it regularly. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. Do that today. Lots of stuff happened in 2020. And 2022 looks like it's going to be kind of a crazy year. So let's do this one together and throw a like on this. Okay, Mailbag. Here we go. I've got a letter. Howdy, Mark. I went into my local AD yesterday just to drop by and get a little something from my girlfriend. Valentine's Day is coming up, which, by the way, guys, visit your local AD. Don't only go in and buy watches. If you buy earrings, you're going to have a better chance at making friends over at the AD. Valentine's Day, VD, coming straight up. Okay, this is the same AD that has sold me the No Date, that'd be a sub, No Date, the Black GMT, the Hulk, and I also buy jewelry for them for the ladies in my life. Now, this is from a gentleman by the name of, well, I think maybe for the purposes of this email, we should call him Michaelangelo to protect his identity because, well, he's going to be spreading a little bit of AD rumor and I don't want to get him in any trouble. So Michaelangelo is what we're going to call him right now. And Michaelangelo doesn't have a lady in his life. He has ladies. And so interesting. But I might point out this is maybe one of the factors that makes him popular with his authorized dealer is he buys stuff there that's not just watches. Higher margin, regular consumer. That's a good customer right there. You guys could try that if you buy jewelry. Don't buy it online. Buy it from your AD. While we were chatting, the salesperson joked about their huge Rolex selection, which consisted of 3, now, I'm going to say it, guys, Cellini. I've said Cellini all my life, but I know that some of you say Cellini. Which is it? I think my AD calls it Cellini, which makes me believe that it is an Italian-looking word. Should be Cellini, like cello. It's not cello, you know, the thing that you play. But look, tell me in the comments, which way do you pronounce it, Cellini or Cellini? So they had 3 Cellinis and, they had 3 Cellinis and 2 ladies' date justs when Michaelangelo went in there shopping. I talked about the watches and I was interested in how all the watches are so hard to get with the current Rolex craze, which we've talked about. Not only is there a lot of demand, but there's not a lot of production right now. And they replied that even gold pieces are sold at no discounted price. So that's interesting. And that actually confirms what I've been hearing from other ADs around the country, that gold is in such high demand right now as a hedge and as a replacement for the steel that nobody can get, that they're not really hardly discounting it at all. And it used to be a truism that in Rolex, the precious metal would get you 10% off. So if you know something about that, throw it in the comments. Did you buy precious metal at a discount? Did you have to pay retail? You know, does your AD like you? What's the deal on precious metal? Can you even find it? It's getting rough to find. And I know this because I was lucky enough to buy that gold sub this year, but, or was it late last year? Late last year, but boy, it was not easy to get. So the AD replied that even gold pieces are sold at no discounted price, Michaelangelo says. But he goes on, they mentioned that their Rolex sales rep spoke to them and told them that the Cellini line was going to be discontinued. I inquired why. They replied that there was some issue with California allowing exotic leather goods, namely the Alligator strap for the Cellini line. Let's just stop here for a quick second. You know, if you're like a Rolex collector or a Rolex interested person, but you haven't spent much time in authorized dealers, you might not even really know what the Cellini line is. And let's just say it is a secondary line of Rolex under the Cellini name, but it is a Rolex watch, but they're dress watches and they're by and large precious metal. Let me know if I've got this wrong, but I'm pretty sure I got it right. I think some of them might be on bracelets, but the vast majority of these dress watches are on leather. Let me show you just a couple models of them here. Rolex Prince is one of my favorites of those. Has a display back. It kind of looks like a Reverso. But they're very hard to get and they're very expensive. And that's a problem with Cellini is they're not in incredible demand from collectors. They're just popular dress watches among people who don't know a whole lot about dress watches and wander into a Rolex AD. But they're expensive. And the kind of guy who buys them doesn't usually resell them. So even on the secondary market, they remain very, quite expensive. So why are they discontinuing these? They replied that there was some issue with California allowing exotic leather goods, namely the Alligator strap for the Cellini line. I know some of them may have some other form of leather strap, but some of them definitely come on Alligator. So due to this, they would just cancel the line. I assume the low sales of these models don't help. I did some Google searching and came up with nothing about this topic. I am just writing to let you know what I was told. I know that authorized dealer hearsay isn't something one should go by, and that maybe they just wanted to finish selling those 3 Cellinis in the case. But this dealer has always been straightforward for me. I'd be interested to see what Moneypenny has to say about this one. Moneypenny, if you're listening, is Rolex discontinuing the Cellini line? Let me give you my take on this, guys. So first, Michaelangelo, you are correct. It is actually now illegal in the state of California to purvey alligator skin anything. And in fact, California made it a criminal act to sell any sort of endangered species. And there's a long list of those. But right now, we'll just focus on the alligator. So does this mean that Rolex AD is going to be arrested for selling Cellini? Yeah, possibly if it's on an alligator strap. So is therefore Rolex, the corporation in Geneva, Switzerland, the manufacturer, discontinuing its long-standing Cellini line because California now makes it illegal to sell alligator straps? No, I don't think so. I think what Rolex is likely to do is simply for shipments into California to swap out to some other kind of leather that is approved. And in fact, Rolex might not be the kind of company that likes to do this, but they could be forced into it. You could take calf's leather and emboss it as though it were alligator leather, and you'd almost have to do a DNA test on the really good mock alligator straps in order to know the difference. And a fair number of companies do that. So I do think it's a little odd because I'm pretty sure that alligators are farmed in lots of places and that they're not so endangered. So I don't really know why California has done this. I'm not advocating animal cruelty, guys, so don't get on me. But if you know why is the alligator a protected species in California, but meantime they're being farmed and sold for food and skin in other parts of the country and the world. I don't know. If you know anything about that, let me know. So does this mean that Rolex is going to discontinue the entire time-honored Cellini line? No, I don't think so. Does it mean that your authorized dealer is going to drop the Cellini line? Also, no, I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. I bet you that they are contractually obligated to take that stuff along with the good stuff. It works a little something like this. Hey, you guys, I'm going to make you a deal you can't refuse. I'm going to give you like 1 Daytona every year. 3 Submariners. I'm going to give you 1 Summit or Starbucks, whatever you people want to call it. And I'm going to give you like 1,500 Datejusts. But you're going to have to take like half a dozen Cellinis every 6 months, and you're going to have to sell them. Excuse me, Cellinis. That's what I think happened. So I'm pretty sure that Rolex is not discontinuing the Cellini line. Guys, did I get that one right? Let me know. But before we hang up the phone, I've got another letter. Let's look at this one. Before we move on to the next letter, let me drop in markgoldberg8@gmail.com. Write me if you'd like me to answer your questions. Even if I have to make up the answer, I have opinions. I will have something to say. Okay, this is from Gary, and Gary says, "Hi Mark, I am a subscriber to your YouTube channel, and I have just watched your video on the gray market." I'll drop a link to that one in here. Another informative and welcome view. I have been on the waiting list at my AD for a Rolex sports watch for over a year now, and have been recently told that there are still none available. Shocker. And that they have not even had any updates from Rolex regarding future supply. But you had an update from me regarding 2021 Rolex future supply via my source, my mole, deep within the bowels of Rolex in Geneva, Moneypenny. And what we know is doesn't look good for 2021, guys. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. But throw a like on this video. Don't shoot the messenger. I am in England, and the chances of getting a new sub or Daytona seems to be virtually nil, unfortunately. Well, I think that's true, but you'd have a much better shot at a sub than a Daytona, but honestly, probably not too good on either one of them, unless you're a super big customer at your AD. But you've been on the waiting list, so-called waiting list for a year, and that says you're not, They're not looking after you. Sad, because this is the way that a lot of ADs deal with the average customer. From watching yours and other videos from across the pond, it seems that you guys have a slightly better chance than I do. So with this in mind, I've recently bit the bullet and purchased a 2018 black-faced Explorer 2 from the gray market. So he's bought a gray market Explorer 2. You didn't tell me what you spent on that, but hey, it's a nice watch. And as we know, the 50th anniversary is coming up of that watch, and you're talking about that next. I never realized it at the time, but apparently it will be the Explorer's 50th anniversary this year, so I'm wondering what you think will happen to its value. My intention in buying this watch originally was to hopefully flip it as part exchange for a sub or a Daytona. On the upside of my frustration with purchasing a sports Rolex from an AD is that I've had much better success in acquiring a Tudor GMT and a Black Bay 58 navy blue from Tudor ADs. My other watch is a Breitling Super Ocean with the blue face, and I have to be happy with my collection so far, but I would still love to own a sub or a Daytona. Any tips or advice would be greatly appreciated. There's a few things that we should unpack here. So let's start with that you bought the Explorer to flip it. Gary. His name is Gary. Gary. If you bought from the Rolex gray market and you're going to sell back into the Rolex used or gray market, how are you going to make money, especially if you're thinking about doing it anytime soon? So let's say that your AD, out of the goodness of their heart, calls you and they say, Gary, hurry on over here. We've got that Submariner that you've been waiting for. Just bring your 10,000 quid along with you. And you're like, crud, I don't have it. I got to quick sell the Explorer 2 first in order to raise most of the funds, and then I'll run back to the AD, and it's not going to work that way. You will get hosed, Gary. You will get hosed that way. So you never buy to flip. So the whole reason you bought this watch, it's a terrible reason. You shouldn't have bought it unless you really liked it. And you should really like it. It's a fantastic watch. I had the Polar Edition. I sold mine because I'm crazy and I need to I constantly need new things, like most of you guys. And now you're asking what they're going to do to it, what will happen to the value of it. I think you're looking at this from purely the financial standpoint, and I think that's a mistake. You bought a beautiful 42 millimeter watch with a fixed steel bezel, has the GMT function. I think it's super robust. It's a great watch, Gary. I think you should keep it and you should enjoy it. And I don't know, get the Submariner off of your mind. What's going to happen to the value of it is going to depend entirely on what they do to that watch, if any change at all, for the 50th anniversary. So for example, if they take that steel bezel off and they replace it with a ceramic bezel, as so many people think that Rolex is likely to do in celebration of the 50th for the Explorer 2, if they do that, then what will happen is your watch will be discontinued, it will be obsoleted, and its price will fall for a year before it starts to creep back up. Why is it going to fall? Because everybody who's got the one that you have is going to dump it onto the gray market in order to get the new one with the ceramic bezel, because it's bright, it's new, it's shiny. I want that. I want to be the first kid on my block to have that new GI Joe with the ceramic bezel. Okay, and so I think that the watch is going to temporarily fall, but then I think it'll start inching back up, and eventually it's likely to become a future classic. But you're looking 5 to 10 years ahead. That's what I think. So what should you do? If it's a Submariner that you wanted, what you should have done is to have purchased that on the gray market. You could get one tomorrow. What's the best buy in a gray market Submariner? It is the 40 millimeter, not the 41. The 41 is going for stupid price. The 40 is actually a reasonable deal right now on the gray market, I think. Don't get me wrong, it's selling at a premium above its original retail, but not as much of a premium as the 41. Yet if you held the 40 and the 41 side by side, you'd need a very trained eye to even detect the difference. You'd really need to study those lugs, and you'd need to take a micrometer to the bracelet to find that one silly millimeter extra that they've given you. So I don't know. I think the smart move would have been for you to have bought the Submariner that you're really lusting after. Just buy a clean example of the 40 millimeter and you could have been done with it. Guys, how did I do on my advice today? Please let me know in the comments. Let's talk about this. Go ahead and remember, 74% of you do not subscribe. You can fix that today with a single button push. If you're already subscribed, thanks for being with me. Hit the like on this and let's do it again soon. Goldberg, peace out.
Paint the sky.